Howdy. Yeah, it's Michael again. I was just working on wrapping up my INI writer class. I already had finished basically my APIs for writing INI files and reading INI files with a relatively simple and clean API for my game engine. But I needed to make some changes to the writer in order to be able to merge INI files or merge new keys into old INI files and things like that. And I think I've kind of got the API figured out. I'm just doing two optional bools, one for whether you want to merge the sections and one if you want to merge the keys of those sections. But in order to get the thing working, I kind of had to fundamentally redo how the INI writer works. So previously, the INI writer would just straight up take the commands that you push to it. So you do writer.comment, inline, value, and dictionary, and whatever. You could just directly write to the INI file, and it would literally just write it out as the INI file would read to a temp file, and then upon closing it, it would move the temp file to the destination, overwriting the old one. However, that implementation didn't work very well for changing over to a merge strategy, because in order to merge, you need to take the temp file that you just wrote, read it. So you close the read handle, close the write handle, open a read handle, or mandate that it opens a read and write handle at the same time, and then from there parse it again in order to figure out where to insert the data. So what I did is I kind of went back, not quite to the drawing board, but I went to the underlying mechanism of the INI writer. And now, instead of writing directly to a file, so instead of maintaining a text stream object to stream this stuff out to the file, we have an internal string stream. And the string stream is basically just a buffer for the data we want to write. When you write a comment or a header or whatever, it goes into this buffer, and then every time a section of the file is completed, not an INI section, but like something like this, so like everything above the shared section header, or everything above this key, every time you get a chunk of the file written, it will organize it and store it into a map where the hash name of the section is the first key, and the what follows is a vector of key value pairs, so that you can just quickly check when you are parsing the file that you're merging into. You can quickly check whether the key is already in that file, and you can decide what you want to do with it. So this is largely working now, but I was going through the last couple of problems and I realized that this probably would be a good thing to do live. So what I've got up here on the right, this is a test file that I am testing a merge with. I technically don't need the left one open, but it's helpful a little bit. I'm going to put it on the right real quick, just so that I can see it while I'm working. But it just as that, this is the file I would be merging into, and then in my testing code, this section right below where I'm setting up the spinning cube in the demo, this thing, I am writing with certain merge options, and I can see Visual Studio will update the file live over here, so I can see whether the output was correct. So the gist is that I'm writing an INI that has this comment on the top, a global key and global value, so this guy after a new line and a new line following it, section header for shared section, shared key, shared value, so all of this is the same. However, the old section is not being written to. So this is something that you would want to preserve if you're merging. And I have a unique section that I'm writing out that will need to write into this file. So there's 4 different merge scenarios. The first is that you are not merging the keys, you're not merging the sections, which means basically you're doing a total file replacement. And already there's a problem. Let me refresh that file because I accidentally left unsaved changes before I ran the test. You wind up with this scenario where you got extra section headers, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, I'm going to start there, but the other scenarios would be if you set merge sections to be true, old section would be preserved is the idea. So because I'm not writing to the old section survives the merge. Oh, hi, M. Blazowski, or I'm sorry, I probably butchered that name. Blazowski? Oh, yeah, let me know if I'm saying that right. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm just kind of chilling and coding, and I realized that I could probably be doing this live. Yeah, I just kind of working and got bored of doing it silently in my room. How are you doing today? Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I'm just dealing with these different merge scenarios. The merge scenario that I just tested was whether I want to keep the old section. And that technically works because the old section's here. However, I expected something like that because there was a space after that. Well, actually, no, I didn't. No, I did expect a line to be above that because the old section had a line above it. But yeah, it's like resorting, and then the shared section, it's got a second header for some reason. And then if I was to merge everything, what's supposed to happen in this scenario, if I run it, then it should be overwriting the keys, but I'm getting duplicate keys. So Teensy 4.1. Oh, you do. That's the Arduino, the independent Arduino, isn't it? I have a Teensy somewhere. I was going to use it for a audio control service. What are you making? What's the project you're making with the Teensy? Nice. Yeah, I've been through. I've had to do some in-depth reading on my Teensy. I think it's actually also a 4.1 for the project I was working on, and that's there's a lot of reading involved with microcontrollers, and if you're not like classically taught how to program like microcontrollers and electronics and stuff, it's difficult to wrap your mind around. I'm only a hobbyist, so I'm not at all in that field. What is a CAN bus library? I'm not familiar with that. CAN bus is essentially 2 wires and then broadcasting a small 8-byte packets on top of that. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, nice. Why are you writing your own? Is there not a wide variety of those available? Oh yeah, I get you. I feel you. This whole project I'm working on is a product of masochism. Yeah, or sometimes it feels like it. Yeah, I get you. Totally. I'm trying, like, my first impulse is to write everything myself. I probably shouldn't. um, but I am getting better at pulling in libraries when I don't need them. So for example, I didn't write my own YAML writer or parser. Instead, I just brought in YAML CPP to do YAML, which is what I use for my scene files. My dependencies, yeah. I've got a decent amount of dependencies. Though in my defense, two of them are things that I wrote. But yeah, I'm doing an INI writer and parser because I needed features that aren't present in normal INI files. So a big one would be opening up my input files, test input. This is an input mapping file, and first I want to have multiple key values for keys, and then I want to be able to do sub values and sub keys, and that's not an INI thing, so I needed my own solution. But yeah, the current problem is merging INI files. So I've got everything I need to be able to read and write data from the INI. But if I'm writing to the INI file, then I need a way to be able to keep just the keys that I want from the old file. This is INI ++. Yeah, it's yeah, kind of like INI ++. Though to be fair, that's kind of what INI has become nowadays. INI, I'm not sure that a lot of folks know the history of it. A lot of people just see INI as the thing that you tweak in some video games and in Skyrim and whatever to do mods. But basically, INI used to be the like in the Windows 95 era, it used to be the what Microsoft used instead of the registry, and nowadays the registry holds all the keys and values that you would use for your operating system. So it's not even a valid format anymore. It just happens to lend itself well for certain scenarios. But yes, so the first thing that I'm doing right now is I'm inspecting the structure that holds all the data that I want to merge, make sure that everything is written in there correctly in this tiny little window at the bottom. It seems at first glance like everything is working correctly. The structure is a map of vectors of pairs of, yeah, kind of complicated looking, but it's all under the hood. It's not something that the game developer would see. Unique key equals new value. Yeah, that's good. Shared key equals shared value. That's good. I guess I need to look at the structure containing the section header text. Here we go. Well, actually, here's something I didn't expect. Let me open that up. The header, when I write unique section out, the header has a prefix in front of it. Oh, actually, that's expected. Never mind. What am I saying? When I write to the file here and I do the unique section, I have a new line before the section, so that's why it's in there. So that's fine. Okay, it looks like my data that from the API is structured correctly. Everything is going where I need it to go. So there's just I'm just confusing something or mixing something up in the merge code, which is great. Let's head back here and continue stepping through. So we open up the text file reader on the destination file. Well, I have a new line there, just a formatting thing. So if you take a look at the file on the right, I wanted to have a space here between these two sections. And to be clear, that's completely optional. In my test that I wrote here, where I am writing out. Oops, I didn't mean to continue. I'm writing out to the file. I insert new lines in between the section headers sometimes. Would it not be simpler to do simple merge line and always enforce new lines around sections? I suppose it would, but I am trying to keep the format flexible because this is something that I'm planning to use all over the engine. Like I've got spots that I want to have, and I don't want to necessarily enforce a format. But then it's also totally possible for a game dev to use it for use the INI files for any other situation, and they may need special formatting. And one key place that I know I already will be wanting to have my own formatting is files like these. So like this is an input context. The gist is that I specify a bunch of action mappings and axis mappings. I say what the name of the action or axis is, what key or control to use, and in the case of actions, which direction I'm pushing the button, and in the case of axes, what scale number to apply. So like if I enforced a rule that said that your things always had to look like this, it suddenly becomes a lot less readable. So it's I think it's important to be able to allow whoever's using the API to put their own structure to the file. So that's the main reason why I'm going through all this work. Because I already have situations where I need it, and there's likely going to be more. Let's try that again. This is the file. Okay. All right. Stepping in. And I want to be clear that I'm not a professional developer or anything. I am self-taught, so there's likely to be commonplace solutions that I'm just unaware of because I wasn't classically taught how to be a C++ programmer. I just kind of read a couple of books and did a whole lot of trial and error. Okay. Let's take a look at the line by line write. I can probably put that on the right over here. Yeah. In order to help make my code more manageable, in order to make the process more manageable, I am outputting every single line that I would write to the file, to the console. So I should be getting a play-by-play. Okay, so the first thing that happens is the global section writes apparently correctly from the code, the stuff that I'm trying to serialize, and we do make it to the next section without a problem. We're parsing now what we're doing is we're parsing the original file to rather quickly, and I mean this as lightweight as possible, identify sections and keys, with the assumption that if the section or key is followed by garbage, then we just merge it anyway, and we deal with that when we go to read the file. Okay, now we are inserting a comment into the comment buffer. While I'm parsing the old file, I am continuously storing the text above a key or section header. So that way, if I want to keep the old one, so if I come across the shared section header and I don't have the shared section in my new INI and I want to merge it, I'm not just copying it, I'm copying any comments above it. So in order to do that efficiently, I've got to continuously store that info. Okay, we've just come across the global key line in the original file, and that's interesting. It looks as if, let me open up the comment buffer to read it. Oh, go on, can't I get a string view here in the text viewer? I guess string streams I can't open up in the Visual Studio text reader for some reason. But it looks like the global value key, so global key equals global value, it looks like that's being stored in the comment buffer, which is wrong. The comment buffer should be only for things that are not keys. So I'm coming across global key equals global value and I'm not discarding the text, I am storing it. So that's going to lead to a duplicate. And just to confirm, if I continue and go to the file, well, that's weird. It actually didn't write it even though it went to the buffer. What's going on? This is getting to be kind of frustrating. I'm going to hide some of these extras so I can get a wider view down here. And then I'm just going to keep an eye on this dot comment, or wait, no, it's a local comment buffer here. Presently doesn't have anything in it. This is getting messy. Let me just throw it in here. Line, add watch, and then add watch for our comment buffer. There we go. And I keep track of the lines that we're on and the lines that were the comments where we're working on. Okay, so currently comment buffer is still empty. We've identified the first comment. We've successfully pushed it in. Let's move on. This is a blank line, so we're skipping it. Good. Global key equals global value. Now this can be a valid key, but we are skipping it because we are not merging. And there's the rub, because I got an else here catching if we're not merging and inserting the line. I think my assumption here was when I wrote this code, this section, was that I would be writing in anything that was not a valid key. But I'm not catching the situation where if it is a valid key, but it's one that I am overwriting, then I don't want to store it in the buffer. I want to clear the buffer. But even so, it still doesn't find its way into the file. It just sort of disappears at some point. I guess it disappears because we go to another section header. In the section header, okay, I think I've spotted a problem. I don't know if it's the big one right yet, but let me go ahead and fix it. So if we find something on the line, if it might be a valid key, so I'm only handling the key if we are merging keys, and that's determined by a combination of factors, including the merge options that I've provided as part of the API. But the problem is that I am catching, this is intended to catch lines that should be comments. So there should be another condition here. I only want to write if we are not merging. So if we're not merging, then we are not going to be writing the output of the comment buffer anyway. So actually now I'm wondering if this line is worthless. I'm going to take it out and see what that does to my merge file. There must have been a reason why I put it in there. Okay, and let's see what the output of the file is. Come on. GeForce tag on the corner whenever I launch the game. Okay, that's actually looking better. That merge is correctly replacing shared section with identical text. So that appeared to have been part of what I've got going wrong here. So now I've got to deal with why this shared section header is showing up, because shared section is handled up here. I shouldn't be serializing anything after I have serialized the unique section. So I know where to look for this code though. So the section down here that gets replaced, unique section and shared section, it is handled separately from the merge process because unique section wasn't in the original file. So let me take a look at that code. debug to it. And that's down below the while loop and down into here. So this section right here is presumably where the problem starts. Let's take a look at the console. Yeah, so so far the console has outputted the sections that we have in common with the old file. So down here in this loop, we should be only outputting the new stuff. So there's something wrong with how I'm serializing that. So what am I doing? I'm going over the data structure for the stuff I have written to the file so far. I'm getting the hash name of the section so that I can access associated data members. I am getting a vector of pairs of keys and values. So first thing I'm doing is I am, for every section in this section, I am printing out the section header text. Oh, that's okay. This should be in here. I'm pretty sure that's the problem. I'm not checking before I write the header out. I'm not checking whether the header is already in the file. I have a tracker structure, previously parsed sections, specifically for this. The point is that if we have parsed out a section and merged in to the section from the old file, from the original file, then I don't have to write it again. So yeah, that looks right. Gosh, I hope that's all there is to it. I hope everything works perfectly now, from now on. Continue. And what do we got? It looks like it's working. Okay, cool. So this test, the purpose of this test was to ensure that the file is totally replaced by the contents of by the keys and values that I just wrote out. So it is keeping the formatting that I used when I wrote the code, and it is stripping out the section that I didn't write to, and it is yeah, it's looking otherwise identical. That's exactly what I want. Cool. So on to the next test, which is going back to the dev state. We're going to say that we're going to merge sections now. What this means is that I should keep the old section as well as the unique section that I'm writing from the code. Hopefully this will work right off the bat. All right, what we got? Okay, it appears to be working, but I got a weird formatting thing, which makes me want to take a closer look. I do indeed have the old section and the unique section, meaning that all of the key value pairs are here, which means technically this is a successful merge. But the formatting I was expecting for there to still be a new line above old section. And I can't understand right off the top of my head why that would differ from last time. Old section should have been copied in from the old file. But I guess when I'm copying in the old text, I'm not preserving the comment buffer above it. So that's back in the parser code. Here we go, back into this guy. So we're looping through. We encounter a new section. We get the hash for the section name. We check the data structure to see whether it's in there. The section in question I know is not in there because I haven't written it. The whole point is that it's a section that I'm trying to keep from the old file. So the problem is in this block somewhere. If m merge sections is true, then we send out the current line, and we send out, or we change the merging keys to merge sections. Let me put a breakpoint here and just inspect the conditions when we reach it. Yeah, so at this point, the parser has reached the old section. The parser has reached this line 8. Merge sections is true because that's what I said. It is only outputting this line, and I should be able to output the line above it. Comment buffer. Is comment buffer receiving everything I need? It is. So, okay, I think I got the problem. Comment buffer is the string stream that's receiving all of the text that's not part of the key or the section header. I am not writing it out, so I forgot to write it out. That will look like this code. I'm going to copy that out. And paste it in. This extra line here is to clear out the comment buffer. Oh wait, no, I'm not. That's not what it does. This prints the comment buffer. This prints the line following it. I still have to clear the comment buffer. Did I do that in the other section? Yeah, I did it outside of its if block. So if and merge sections. All right, so whether or not we are merging the section, I need to clear the comment buffer so that it's not containing all the comments from above. All right, cool. Let's try this one more time. It's getting a little dark in here. All right. Got Madeline spinning around in her happy place. Oh, I bungled the test because I left unsaved changes open in Visual Studio Code. All right, let's try that one more time. Okay, we actually have the same exact results as before. I'm getting a little annoyed by the NVIDIA thing popping up every time. Whenever I go to run the game, it pops up and says, "Hey, do you want to record this game?" And it's covering up the corner of the screen where I'm looking at. So yeah, it's still skipping over the text above old section. So apparently what I did is not enough. Let me put the breakpoint there again and try this over. Okay. So let's take a look at so we're currently on the line old section. Comment buffer is already empty. So at some point I'm failing to write to the comment buffer. Oh, it must be this line here. Okay, the line that I had to uncomment for proper formatting before, I think that was the thing that fixed this scenario. Let me test that again. we'll see whether the old section preserves its spacing. Actually, old section is completely scrapped, so that did the opposite of help. Instead it reproduced the comment section from above. So let's leave that out. Why wouldn't the comment section be preserved? So let me think this through. So I should be writing the line above old section when I encounter an empty line here. So yeah, so we're searching the line for the first thing that's not white space. If we don't find anything on the line, and we are merging keys, then I insert into the comment buffer. So this condition is wrong. I also need this to work. I also need to output to the comment buffer if I am preceding a section and we are merging sections. Okay, all right, so I need to track another condition. All these little edge cases is what messes you up. I once wrote not a full C++ parser, but a C++ regular expression parser for a library I wrote called pod constants. And that library is really quite useful, but it was just so much work to do because that's just the way parsers are. Like there's always some legal code or legal text that you have to consider that requires additional code to handle. But we're nearly there. As soon as we got this sorted out, then I can move on from ionize altogether. So the idea here was that if we were merging keys, meaning that we decided that we were going to keep keys from the old file that we weren't overriding, then we would still want the line above it. I think that condition is bad. I think that might be the problem. Because if we find anything that's not got text on it, I may want to put it I may want to put it in the comment of something later. So I think I just need to make this unconditional. I just need to make that a plain else statement. Let's see how that does. Have you heard of our Lord and Savior LR1 parsers? I am not familiar with the term. I might be familiar with the concept, but not the name. Can you fill me in on what LR1 parsers are? Well, that's working better. But there's extra space instead of just the right amount of space. So this tells me that the comment buffer isn't being cleared at some point. That's my impression of the problem. The one looks like it means only head by one character. Oh yeah. So I do that in a couple of places where it makes sense. The in the case of parsing a lot of text, just for the simplicity of it, I'll use line.find first of, and whenever I can, I use the single character because that's just the one. It just analyzes one character per step. And sometimes I'll just do it myself. I'll just get line.data, and then I'll do a for loop and check each character myself. But let me pull up the link you just provided. Canonical LR parser or LR1 parser with a single look ahead terminal. Special attribute is that any LRK grammar with k greater than 1 can be transformed into, I'm not sure what that means, but back substitutions are required to reduce k, and deterministic context-free languages. So context-free meaning that you can just you don't have to know the state of the parse before the line that you're on. My understanding. Rightmost deviation. Oh, for that, yeah. Yeah, so I think I kind of get the principle of it. I just don't know the science behind it. In this case, I am not, even though it is an INI file, and you would think that would be context-free, there actually is some context. The first is which section you're in. In the case of my parser, the second is what comments are above it, because I need to preserve the comments too. So I'm storing those. And there's a handful of other state that I need. But yeah, whenever possible, I try to parse just like one character at a time, and then not have to look back. But yeah, regex is in some ways it would be a lot less hassle to just use the registry instead of INI files. But I kind of did. I was doing some long-term planning for the engine, and I decided that INI files just make the values that much more accessible, and it's easier to go in and troubleshoot your INIs than it is to troubleshoot your registry. That's the bottom line for me, but they're totally fine for most other applications. That line I'll simply say that I can also handle all CFGs. Probably shouldn't have closed the thing we were talking about. What's a CFG? I get the impression that you're a much more seasoned programmer than I am. Context-free grammar. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, university costs quite a lot more than it used to, at least here in the States. Are you still going to school, or have you already graduated? Halfway done? Yeah. Well, good luck with that. I went to school a little bit later than other kids of my generation. I couldn't apply for financial aid until I was 24 due to my parents wouldn't co-sign or approve my FAFSA. I couldn't apply for federal aid until I was 24. And I didn't go to school for programming. I went to school for digital audio, which just great. That's exactly what I wanted to learn. Programming is still just a hobby for me. But yeah, is that 20,000 for the whole thing, or just for the first couple of years? So far, yeah. it's no joke. I got a friend who's literally whose education literally cost over $100,000. And he's got a career that he loves, and he makes plenty of money, but like it's like, is that like why is that price tag okay? No, he's actually believe it or not, he's a classical saxophonist, and he composes and he teaches, and he actually makes quite a lot of money. He performs with big groups in Seattle, um, and teaches there. Yeah, he got I forget if it's a master's or a doctorate or whatever, but like next level education. Yeah, definitely not. You would think that people would be able to save people who go into the arts. There's like kind of a stigma, like, oh, why would you spend that much money to learn to learn music, right? Like, um, but it depends on what you're trying to do, and having background in classical stuff is really hard to get on your own. Yeah, yeah. PhDs are like, if you're yeah, that's a level I had considered at one point, getting a master's in audiology, but like I figured that I probably can't. I probably should take a step back and not dive into something like that right now so soon after a bachelor's, because that's already so much money. All right, I'm gonna set that breakpoint again because I think I have. I'm gonna set the breakpoint where I'm doing the comments. I think that's where I'm gonna see, um, because I don't know where and when I'm getting those extra lines. Put this on left side. All right. Oh, but I'm not going to be able to see the new lines print on the console either. So let's just watch the buffer. Okay, so it fills up with 3 new lines before I get to the old section. So why would that be? So looking at the file, we've got 1, 2, 3. There are 3 new lines, but they should have been cleared from previous sections. I'm failing to clear the buffer, I think. So there's the buffer that I'm using to store comments. There must be a point where I'm not clearing it. Let me confirm all the places where I use it. Control F. No, that doesn't seem to be the problem, because everywhere that I use it, I clear it, except for the one place where I'm not trying to clear it. So the line that I'm on is currently a blank line, and it is the blank line Oh, I've already cleared it. Okay, so now we've just parsed to global value to this line. We've got we're actually missing something. We should be seeing in the comment buffer I don't think I'm thinking very clearly. I've been a little lethargic the last couple of days, so a little harder to track my thoughts. At this point, I would think that there would be a new line and a comment above global value. Let's run through the file from the start. I think I'm starting my debugging a little too late into the process. So let's start when we start parsing through the file. All right. Okay. So at this point, we have dumped the global section that we have written to from the game dev, or the game code. We are now parsing the old file to see what we want to keep and what we want to discard. So the first thing we find is a comment, and because we are not merging sections or keys, we skip. Or because we're not merging keys, we skip. Okay. I think I need to do something about this line. This was else if. Okay, so this is if we might have a section line. This is if we might have a key value pair. But only if we care about the keys in the file. And what is this for? This is for anything else. So if we find something on the line that's not a section or a key, then it must be a comment. Or garbage, but I'm going to presume it's a comment. So I do need to be storing the line here. This needs to be in the code. But the condition must be wrong. So if it's I think I'm going to take a little bit of a break and rest my brain. I think I'm getting closer to the solution, but I'm just not seeing it right now. I'll be back in maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah. Alrighty, I'm back in my chair. Got some tea steeping. Alright, where did I leave off? So I was trying to figure out why all these extra new lines were popping in. And I've also got a small mystery as to what I was doing with this. What I was doing with lines that are not comments or that are not key value pairs or section headers. Basically things that are supposed to be comments. So going back through the parser, I actually left it while I was debugging. Might as well stop that. I'm not really paying attention to it. As we go line by line, we first check to see if there's anything on the line. If there's nothing on the line at all, I will now unconditionally write to the comment buffer, which is the buffer of characters that represent the text above a line that we care about. So the text above shared section, which in this case is just the new line character, that's what would be in the comment section when we encounter that line. Somehow, when we get to this old section header in this file, we wind up with 3 new line characters instead of 1, which is giving extra spacing. Yeah, so first thing we say is if there's anything that's not white space. If it's all white space, we just add a new line to the comment buffer. We just discard the white space characters, because why would we keep them? And then if there is something on the line, we check to see whether it's a section header. If it isn't, then we skip it. Is that part of the problem? Do I want to put that in a comment buffer? I mean, I know in advance that it's not a comment. So, because if it's not a valid section, then this must be garbage. And I know that because it starts with a square bracket. That's an illegal character for keys. For keys in INI key value pairs. So if we move past it, then we can treat the line that we are skipping like a comment, and we would just omit it from the comment buffer. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's doing what I want it to. If we encounter a line where the first thing is a semicolon, and we are, let's forget about that second condition for the moment. If we find that the first thing on the line is a semicolon, then the whole thing is a comment and belongs in the comment buffer. Always. Yeah. So, that means that this should be the case, because if it's not if it doesn't start with if it does start with a semicolon, which is the implied else from this check, then we know that it must be a comment. So we want to put that in the comment buffer, no matter what line follows. But if it doesn't start with a semicolon, then it might be a key value pair. Okay, I think I've spotted the problem, and I think I know how to fix it too. If it's the addition of that condition in that line was intended to protect me from parsing through a key that I wouldn't I wouldn't merge anyway. But if it's a key that I wouldn't merge, it still probably should go in the comment buffer. Like if it's a comment. So that's handled down here. So I actually need to put that condition somewhere else. I need to put it on the outside loop, I think. So if we find that a line is not empty and it can't be a section, and it can't be a comment, I think the trick is that I really need to just wrap the whole parser with the conditions. Because if both merge section and merge keys are false, then we're not merging anything. We can just skip parsing the old file. And then I can assume in the while loop that there is at least one of those things that we care about. So if m merge sections or m merge keys, then we do the parsing. And if we don't cover those sections, then they won't be in previously parsed sections, and we will just write out the data directly instead of merging it with the older. So I think that's good. Let me make sure that I haven't broken the no merge condition. So I'm going to set the merge sections back to false in my test. And make sure that the merge test value is what I want. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and actually that works perfectly. The file is just totally replaced without going through the parser. Notably, the section names were resorted when I did that. I don't know if I care enough to fix it. The reason why that's happening is because the structure I'm storing the data in is an STD map, and that the data in that structure is sorted by running a comparison operator on the keys. And the keys in this case are not strings. They are the hashes of the strings. So they will actually have a random order, because who knows whether the hash of unique section or the hash of shared section is greater. The point is that it's random. So if I wanted to be like a real stickler, I could go in and enforce an order, but I don't really care. I think I'll just, if I'm overwriting the file, I'm just going to be okay with the random ordering of the keys. So that didn't break anything when I did that. That's good. Now let's go back to the previous test where we are merging the sections. Let's see what the outcome looks like. Okay, we've got some big problems now. We've got duplicate shared key and duplicate global key. So Yeah, so I didn't break anything by doing the wrapping on the outside, but I must have broken something. Or maybe I've revealed that something is broken. Because the only notable change I think I had made, besides the bit where we skipped the unnecessary logic when we were not even merging, is that now we've got comment buffer line here. So let's review that situation. So on the original file, we say that we're going to merge the sections. Merging keys is, in this case, going to be equal to merge sections, meaning that if we are merging sections, then we will be reading through the keys in the global section, which the global section is the key, the sectionless header, or the headerless section at the top. So that is what we want. Wait, hang on a second. That's not the fork. That's not the branch that we'll be executing in. I have written to the global section. So in fact, merging keys is going to be whether we chose to merge keys. Because I have data to write to the global section. So all we care about is skipping over keys that we are going to write to anyway. That we're going to write over. Okay, that's an important distinction. Okay, going through the file, then we go line by line. The first thing we'll find is a comment, so that's going to be here. We're going to push into oh, I see. That's where the conditional comes from. Merge keys. Or not merge keys. Is merging keys. Because is merging keys tells us that we are paying attention to the keys in this section, and if we find one that we are going to be writing to anyway, then we skip it. Otherwise, we write it. So the first thing we got to do to check that is to get the key, which this is a tried and true algorithm at this point. I grabbed it from my INI reader, which has been working for, I don't know, 6 months. And we check previously written keys.count to see whether the key we encountered is been written yet. So if previously written keys needs to be updated when So the purpose of previously parsed sections, I'm just going to write these in comments to keep them straight in my head. The purpose of this was to prevent writing keys for existing headers underneath duplicate headers. Meaning that if you had a file that for some reason was structured like this, which is totally legitimate, then you don't you don't merge the new data into both. You only merge it into the first one. The previously written keys tracks the first time we write a key to the file. And we track that. We insert the data as soon as we encounter a header that we have data for. So the game plan is that as soon as we encounter a shared section, we check whether the dev was trying to write to shared section. We write it, and we track that we wrote it. So that way, when we encounter the same key in the original file down here, then we'll know that it's free. This is probably the problem. So what we're doing is we get the key. We are now checking whether or not, essentially whether we want to keep it. Because if we are merging keys, we only keep the ones that we have not written to. We are overwriting the ones that have the same name, but keeping the ones that don't. If we have a key that is free to write, then we need to first write it. So write out the comment buffer, and then write out the line. And then we need to clear it. But whether or not this key is being discarded, the comments above it need to be, which is why this is outside of the loop. You're outside of the if statement. So that actually seems to be okay. Oh, Okay, okay, okay. I think I see a problem. So it's occurred to me that we are only clearing the comment buffer if the line doesn't appear to be a comment, and we are skipping the keys. So what this means is that if this line isn't a comment, but we are skipping it because we are not merging, then the comment buffer never gets cleared. So I think what the solution is, and I'll code it and then decide whether that was correct in a second. Is to make the parsing code conditional upon merging keys, but not the buffer clear. So we encounter a line that is a valid key. We aren't parsing it. We are still discarding its white space, and that's why that's the problem. That's why there were 3 white spaces ahead of old section, because we were not pushing back the key, but we weren't discarding the rest of the comments, and everything above each of these sections was just white space. So that's 3 white space characters. I'm sure that's it now, knock on wood. So let's revert the file, run this sucker, cross our fingers, and sip tea nervously. All right. Yes! Look at that. Okay, so this is the file before. We were writing out all of this, all of these two values and an additional section. Now the formatting is completely correct, and we merged in the old section, which was in the old file, but I didn't code to write, and we merged it with the unique section, which is from code but not from the original. So this is a successful merge. Yeah, and if I was to, for example, do a comment above, this is what the old section is about, and then do the merge from there, what I should expect to see is that the comment is preserved. Oh, fuck. God damn it. So there's, oh, okay, there's still a problem. Man, oh man. I was so sure I had it that time. Oh, you know what? We still almost have it. So what happened was I put the comment above, and when we went to do the merge, we weren't getting the new line character after it. So there's a point where I need the new line character. Oh, and that point is here, because the line is read in without the new line character. So we actually still might be close to, oh shit, to having this ready to go. Let me undo that and Control S, press F5 and see if it still does what I need it to. God, I hope it does. I'm getting a little sick of ini files. It does. So it preserved the old section, it preserved its comments, and it added the unique section, and it updated the local and global key. And just to be 100% sure that it's updating those values, I'm taking the quotes off the values. Get rid of the unique section. Whenever we write a string to an ini file, it automatically puts it in quotes. So if those files are being overwritten, it'll say, it'll have them in quotes now. Yeah, single quotes. The old value is preserved. And you notice that we can also tell that it's the old value because there's no single quotes around it. It was just copied in, not interpret it and then whatever. Okay, that's looking great. I'm suddenly feeling like this was worthwhile. Let's go back to the dev code. I will, check myself before I wreck myself, and switch back to false for not merging the keys or the sections. And I should see perhaps a rearranging of things, but yeah, we've got the comment above global key is preserved above that with its new lines, or with its new line. Shared section has its key and new line preserved above it. So if I put a comment in here, writer dot comment, this is what shared section does. If I did that, then it should follow shared section even if it gets rearranged. And then unique section is preserved with its new line above it. So let me quickly confirm that the comments go in the right spot. And they do. It says this is what shared section does, and there's shared section. So even though the order was rearranged, the important part is that the merger is tracking and keeping the comments with the appropriate sections or values. So that's actually working perfectly. That's great. Now let's try the remaining two scenarios, which hopefully will just work right out of the box, but you never know. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off merging sections. So old section should go away, and turn on key merging. So in order to do that, what I'll do is I'll leave global key equals global value. I'm going to instead change shared key to shared key 2. So the outcome I expect for this test is that global key will be replaced, so that the old global value will be replaced with the one in single quotes. But in the shared section, we should see shared key and shared key 2, because they're different keys, and we're merging them. Old section should go away, and then unique section should be written down below. All right. I'll be really glad if there's no more problems tonight. All right, now let's take a look at the file. Global key. Okay, there's a problem with the global key. The global key was duplicated, so we actually somehow got the global key and its comments merged in, even though they shouldn't be. But the other things were a mild success. I don't think this was a perfect merge. Shared section has both keys, but there's an unexpected white space above shared key 2. I didn't put any comments or anything above this, so it should just be directly after shared key. But unique section appears to be formatting correctly, which, that's the hard-coded one, so that's actually not really a surprise. And old section is gone still too, which is what I would expect, because I turned off merging sections. Let me try the whole thing and do merging sections and merging keys. And the output should be pretty much what we saw last time, but we also have the old section. So cool. At least the section merging appears to be working perfectly still. The only problem comes from the merge of the keys within each section. So I need to figure out why global key is not getting replaced. and why there's an extra space above shared key 2. Out of curiosity, I'm gonna rename shared key back to shared key and see whether it replaces. Yeah, so it's not just the global section that has this problem. It's all sections. Okay, so let's go into INI writer and think over the scenario that I'm asking of it. So the idea is that, let me get the output on here so I can follow it. So the idea is that this should be here, this shouldn't be. So let's look for code that would write out the line. Did the console write out identical text? It did. Wait, no it didn't. Actually, here's a hint as to what might be wrong. The console, every time I put a std, every time I put a output to the file, an insertion operator to the text file writer, I also paired it with an stdc out for the same text. So I should be seeing from here down identical text to the file, but I'm actually not. I've got the old section, which looks correct, but underneath old key, old value, I don't see the unique section header. Interestingly, it's the only section header that I write here that's not subject to the merge. So how did it find its way to the file but not the console? Maybe there's a spot where yeah, right here. So actually that didn't turn out to be a problem. It was just that I had forgotten to also log it to the console. So this code is actually probably fine. And that thing I found is probably not indicative of anything. Let's run and check against the console again. Alright, I've got Madeline spinning in her happy place. And, yeah, and do we have a one-to-one correlation now? Oops. That's the, yeah, okay. Okay. Now we can start hunting for places where the right might have been wrong. No pun intended. So every header is being written correctly. So the problem is probably not there. I'm gonna just step through this line by line again. All right, so we've handled the header, the global section up here. We just dumped out all the text that belongs in the global section from the original file, or from the from the code. The new file stuff comes later. So first thing we do is we encounter the top comment. We put it in the comment buffer because we don't know whether we want to keep it. The next line is a blank line, so we should be skipping over all the logic. Oh no, we're not, because we want to store that new line in the comment buffer, so that's right. And then the third line is the key. So this is the point at which we should realize that global key was already written and we don't want to write it again. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so in this section we've realized that the first character on the line, the first non-white space character on the line does not begin with a semicolon. So we're going to assume that it is the key. Because otherwise it's just garbage text, and we can pass that problem along to the INI reader for the next time the file is read. Global key equals global value. Yeah, so it's identified the key correctly, I think. Because pos 2 is 9, pos is 0. So 9 minus 0 is 9. It's the first 9 characters of the line. 9 selected. So yeah, that's correct. This can actually be simplified because I just copied it from another spot that had more logic in it, but for now I'm just going to say move on. So we got the key, and this is where we check against previously written keys. It's not in there. The hash begins with 6.2, and I don't have one that begins with 6.2 in here. Okay, so I think this is the lead I need to follow. Let me unhash the key that's currently written as the key to confirm it's, yeah, global key. Good. And then let's grab the hash currently in previously written keys. So this should be the hash of the key. It just unhashes to the word key. That doesn't make any sense. Am I, oh my god. That's the weirdest freaking mistake. Okay, so, oh no, it's not. Okay. Hang on. Yep, okay, I found the problem. So the problem is that in all of my write methods for writing values out, what I was supposed to do is I was supposed to hash the key, which is a parameter to the thing, supposed to hash it and make a and put that inside of the data section. So when I'm parsing through the data, I am associating it with the correct hash. Instead, I put the word key in quotes. So for every single value I was writing, I was associating it with the key, with the key in quotes. So it's not detecting that the key has already been used because it's comparing it against the wrong. God damn it! Oh man, you know, on the one hand, it's a relief that it's not a world-ending problem, but or one like it should be. The problem should be over now, but just a really stupid mistake on my part to lead to this problem in the first place. All right, so what I just did is I just replaced all instances of hn quote key quote with hn key. So that should make it so that it properly hashes the key names as you're going. Oh, god damn it. God, that makes me so mad. All right, continue. Take a look at that file. And suddenly, lo and behold, it works. We've got a replacement of global key. Shared key and shared key 2 both survive the trip because they're unique keys. There's only the one. The merging seems to be working correctly for the keys, but there's one detail I do need to follow up on, and that's this extra line inserted above shared key 2. I don't know what's causing that, so I don't know whether it will lead to problems. It also fucks with the formatting that the dev put into the file using the API, so I need to fix that. Where would I begin with that? I guess when I go to merge keys. So when I go to merged file out, if data.count current section, the problem would have to be down here somewhere. So down here we say copy the key and its comments if it's not been overwritten by the dev. And I'm willing to bet that the problem arises from there being an extra new line left over in the comment buffer here, which would mean that it's not being cleared correctly after a specific step. Let me go ahead and set a breakpoint and inspect it during the run. Okay, so what line are we on? Shared key 2 equals shared value. That's exactly right. And the comment buffer does contain an extra new line character. That new line character must have been set Yeah, I'm not clear where it would have been set. I guess let's start with a blanket check for new line characters using Control F. I should be writing a new line character after every line because the line is read in and the new line character is stripped, and I need to put it back in. Merge file out, line. Okay, I don't appear to be manually inserting a new line anywhere that isn't valid. So I must be failing to clear it at a specific threshold. So let's go through those thresholds line by line. I know that the new line, I know that the comment buffer was cleared after shared section because when I went to write the previous key, shared key, from the game code, it immediately followed shared section. So it must be when I'm writing back the value. So parsing the old key from the old file. So got the key. If previously written keys.count current section and the key equals 0. So this code is executed if the key didn't exist. The previous key would have been written as soon as we identified the correct header. So that would have been previously, hang on a second. So we're inserting into the set of previously parsed section names the current section, the one that we just parsed. Yeah. And if there was an insertion, or in other words, if we haven't already countered the section before, then we do const.key text mdata, and we get the key and text for every key within the current section. The new line must be inserted in the data somewhere. So when I go to write using writer.value here, share value, I must be accidentally inserting a new line character in there. It must be here, but I don't see how it could be. Because I don't see any place in the code where new line character isn't appropriate. Let me step through that code. Yeah, I don't see anything amiss going on there. I've only got the one new line character. So there must be another point of failure down the stream, down the road. Getting a little desperate for an answer here, so I'm just going to be searching literally every location where I write to the comment buffer. I guess there's only the two. So, if we are parsing through the file, we look for something that's not white space, and we don't find anything, then we just have an empty line. Then push that into the comment buffer. And that should be cleared by the next time we find a key. So reviewing how the file was transformed. By the time we find shared key 2, we have a new line in the comment buffer that hasn't been handled. My best guess is that it's left over from above shared section, that somehow when I write out the text for the shared section header, that I am not clearing the comment buffer then. I think that's probably it. So that would be here. This may be section. Okay, so we got the name. That's totally it. So the comment buffer gets cleared if we are copying over the header from the original file. But if we are using the header that we wrote using the game code, then it doesn't clear. So I think I've just corrected that by moving it out of this if-else statement. So in either condition, the comment buffer gets cleared. I have a good feeling about this. So reverting the file back to where it was. Let's see how the merge goes this time. Probably left a breakpoint somewhere, but okay. Yes. Okay, I think that's working then. So, and that was the last scenario to check. So I think that might actually be it. I think that might be the INI merge process in a nutshell, or INI merge process totally done correctly. So in this last fourth scenario that we were testing, we were merging both the sections and the keys. So when I complete this test, I start off with the old section with the old key and the old value. I've got the shared section, which I am writing shared key 1 to from the code. So that should be keeping both keys. I'm overwriting global key, so this should be replaced by, well, the same value, but it'll show quotes around it. And actually, I think in this test I had old section. I think I had turned off. No, I turned it on. So old section should still be there when we're done. And so when the merge completes, it got quotes around the global key, meaning that this was indeed updated. We merged two different keys, the old from the original file and from the new code, in an existing section. We've added a new section with new keys, and we've kept the old section. And we did this all without losing any of the formatting or any of the comments from either file. So if I went to the original file and took out that comment, or if I made shared section immediately follow, or old section immediately follow shared section, then old section would immediately follow whatever is inserted in between. Yeah, old section would immediately follow that because I didn't choose to put new line in front of it from the game code or from the original file. Okay, this is awesome. I think that's fixed. So I think this whole system is working now. I've got a little bit of cleanup work to do before I merge it for INI writer. I've got some leftover commented code from before I started this whole operation. But let's make a more robust test for the merge test. Let's do I don't know. Let's base it off of an actual INI that I use in my engine right now. I'm copying in the text from my test input INI, which just maps some basic controls from gamepad and keyboard and mouse to basic commonly used actions and axes, and I just leave this in while I'm testing out code. And what I'll do is, make that full screen, I will, in the test game state that I'm working in, I will go to here where I'm testing out the writer. I will save the merge test here. I will write out all these keys again. Well, maybe not all of them, but a good chunk of them, to file. And I will change up a few things. Let me do the whole file. I'll change up some values and see how they merge. So this will take a little bit of formatting to make happen. First thing I need to do is I need to open up a writer. So file, INI writer, and I will immediately open it upon the user data folder, merge test.ini, which is where this file is located, is the user data folder. And then I will do, under each of these, I'll a whole bunch of typing at once. So first I got writer.comment. And then for each of these keys, I will need, I'll just do the whole thing at once. I'll need writer.dictionary, actually, because these are dictionary values. They have sub-values and sub-keys. Writer.dictionary, the key in quotes. And then I need to do, I'll construct it with an initializer list. There's multiple ways for me to do keys like this. Let's see if I remember the overloads from the top of my head. I can do just an association between a string and a data point, using that awesome generic wrapper I've got, so I can just do it as a string and not care about the details. Control and direction. Normally I'd be doing this in a for loop or whatever, but this is just for demonstration purposes. I just want to have a whole bunch of stuff being written out that mimics real conditions. Dictionary mapping, action mapping, key as a string, initializer list is a pair of strings and INI values. Did I miss a step? Oh, dir equals up. I gotta do dir comment. All right, then let me go ahead and do and then for these lines in between, I'd be doing new lines. So writer.new line. I'll just leave it at the default 1. Oh, whoops. There's always one little thing left. And then I gotta do the same thing for these. This is admittedly the less fun part. Can't wait to be getting to the game stuff. That's going to be way nicer from my perspective. and probably yours too. Oh, I put quotes in there. And these aren't strings. Expected a comma. Did you expect a comma? Oh, I put the comma on the wrong side. The thing I love about the way I design the API is that I can just put whatever data point I want in. And a type-safe union wrapper will automatically handle the conversion. So I can put a float, I can put an int, I can put a ulong, I can put a pointer if I want. Not that you'd want to serialize a pointer in an INI file. But yeah, I can put all that data in there and it'll just write it out correctly and interpret it correctly when I read it back in. Writer.newline. I'm not digging how long it's taking me to set this up though. Just copying everything in and then trying to make it house actual data. I don't think I'm going to bother with testing the merge of the gamepad stuff right now. I'll just test a comment somewhere in the middle. You. It's not an equals, let's say. What did I forget? But I have. Oh, I need a wrapper. Oh no, I don't. I need to close these. I forgot to close. Okay, cool. So just a helping of example data that kind of resembles real data. And for our purposes, I'll leave the things the same. So in the case of an input context file, one like this, there's only two keys technically. They just have multiple values associated with them. So by default, these are just going to be overwritten no matter what settings I pick. Because if I do merge sections to true and true for the keys, the whole point is that you're only merging the keys that you aren't overwriting. So other keys that you're not setting make the trip, but the ones that you are setting don't. So the way that this should work is that this should be a total replacement here in a minute, except for I forgot the section header. So writer.section, the name was input.test context. Yeah. And a space below. So this should write out this section up here with the new lines and everything. I decided not to spend more time and work on the gamepad controls down here. Well, it looks like I got a new follow since I last looked at my chat. Thanks from whoever did that. I suppose I can find out in OBS. Planet was taken. Thank you very much for the follow. I seem to not be doing a great job of paying attention to my chat. So yeah, this should totally replace the file. So we should see these keys disappearing when I do the write. So let's do that. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the file looks like normal. Instead of seeing the keys being overwritten, though, we have they all merged, which, believe it or not, is actually not what I wanted to happen. So it looks like there's more work to do here. You can see the ones that were written out don't have quotes around them. That has to do with the way that I'm using the insert operator to write out the text. So this stuff is the stuff that stayed. This stuff is stuff that didn't. Might have something to do with the fact that these are dictionary values. All right, I made some great progress here. I'm going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, I think I'm going to have to figure out what is happening up in here. All right. All right, back. I got a chance to stretch my legs. So before the break, I just set up a test scenario that goes a lot more in depth than the previous test scenarios that we had. And actually, this is the first time my test scenario included dictionary values, or multiple values with multiple keys. The latter of which I think is causing the problem now. I have a file here that contains an example of a input input context INI, which basically just means mappings from controls to actions or axes, which is you might be familiar with like in Unity and Unreal, how you can just go in and plug in a name for an action and say which controls affect it, and then when you're programming your code, you don't think about what controller they're using. You think about the control that they're, or the intent of the player instead of the mechanical, like where your hands and buttons are. But when I went to do a merge, what I was expecting to happen was have all of these keys be replaced with just these keys, which the equivalent, what it would look like would be essentially these keys would remain and these keys would disappear. Oops. But what actually happened was this, which I did not expect. That's actually, hang on a second. That's not what happened. It was, I accidentally screwed up my reader history. I was expecting, was out of the game. I was expecting that only these would remain. What actually wound up happening was all of the other keys, all of the keys from before remained. I think that's literally how it is. Except for it only added 7 new lines. So let's look at what was actually replaced. So for starters, it looks like these top lines are the same. The quotes have disappeared, but that has to do with how the library serializes strings as subvalues. I may go back in and have the code do quotes, but it doesn't actually matter. The fact is that it is serializing the same values. The second thing I've noticed is that action mappings are all on top and axis mappings are all below. And that actually is correct. Because if you're writing values out, actually no, that's not correct. No, that is correct. When you're writing the values out, the values themselves are stored in a hash map where technically a STD map of where I have hashed strings as the keys. So when they come out, they are going to be ordered in whichever order the keys come in, but the keys will always, like named keys, will always be grouped. And now I'm wondering whether that's actually going to be a problem, because in the case like this, you could argue that you want the actions and axes to be intermixed, which, whatever, might be a problem, might not. But the bigger problem is that all of the keys that I wasn't expecting to keep stayed. Actually, all the keys that I tried to replace stayed as well. How many lines did I add here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. some keys have disappeared, actually. Like if I take a look at these axis mappings down here, the ones that I didn't want to keep, those did disappear, or some of them did. I noticed specifically that the gamepad options for exit has disappeared. So there's only one exit. Did any of the gamepad controls make it? Yeah, the move X, move Y, speed boost. These made it. It almost looks like there's no rhyme or reason for what made it and what didn't, which is actually more concerning. Because if we take a look at this block, none of these keys should have made it. These keys didn't make it. Yeah, neither of them did. But these keys made it. That doesn't make any freaking sense. So yeah, there's something goofy going wrong here. Let me try a few things. First, I'm reverting the file to how it was before. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off merging and test the other merging scenarios. So false, false meaning not merging the state or the sections, not merging the keys. Come on. All right, here we go. And that works as expected. We've only got the keys that I just wrote, which, you know, yay, small victories. But obviously that's the trivial example. If we merge sections but not keys, I would expect a similar result because there's only the one section. Here. Yes. So it only wrote out the keys that I had written before. But actually, there's a question there too, because speed boost has suddenly got an extra line above it. And after all the work we did to make sure that the formatting gets preserved, that is a development. So somehow in the resorting, did I mess up something here? Oh, I did mess up something here. I didn't. I made some of these. Yeah, I made actually all of these action mappings instead of axis mappings. I don't know if that makes a huge difference, but just to make sure that I'm working with accurate data, let me correct that. So that I'm not getting any wrong assumptions about how this is working or not working. Okay, run it again. And wait the 5 seconds it takes to recompile. All right. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, there's still a weird formatting issue with axis mapping here. What should be happening is that axis mapping should be, when it gets stored, it should have no line above it. So when we go to parse the whole thing, for some reason, when we go to write this axis mapping, it is being associated with a comment that has nothing in it. Oh, no. Never mind. That's not right. I accidentally introduced that error condition because I accidentally added a new line that's not in the original file. Whoopsie. All right, so that actually was a false alarm. let's take a look at that again. So actually, scenario 2 is working perfectly fine as well. Yeah. Yeah, it's getting rid of all of the other keys. So specifically, the issue has to do with merging keys. Just to be extra sure, I'm going to rename the context in the file, and because merge sections is on, I would expect to see that test context text 2 is preserved, and only test context, which is what I actually wrote here, is added to the file. It's not replacing any of the keys. So that's working good. Out of curiosity, if I put an extra line at the end and press Control S and press F5, do I get? That's not expected. I don't know if that's a problem, if I care enough about it, but I had noticed that it's not appending it after the new line. It's appending it immediately after the last key. I think I'll ignore the problem for now, but it's not nothing. It might indicate a deeper problem that might express itself in a surprising way. So yeah, let's move to this, where we are discarding the context but merging the keys. What should happen here is a total replacement. I don't have any reason to think that there'd be a problem, but apparently I don't have this quite locked down. Yeah, so that works correctly, because what's happening is that even though I have enabled merging keys, I've disabled merging sections. So any section that I have not written to from the code gets discarded. And when that happens, I'm just left with test context with, yeah, okay, that's what I wanted. And then back to true. I'm going to test this out now with a differently named context. And that is handling correctly. So, all right, so that tells me that if we can specifically handle the merge, then we have a working solution, even if it's got some lingering potential problems. So, save that. That's crazy because it was working correctly. I think the difference. I don't think the difference has to do with dictionaries. I think the difference has to do with the fact that I'm using the same keys over and over. Because I think that is a scenario that I have not tested in the code before. So let's look at what we expect to happen in that situation. So going back to the writer close call. When we are parsing an existing file, is merging keys is set by a slightly more complicated algorithm, but the gist is that is merging keys occurs when we are in a section that we are overriding, or if we are in a section actually, sorry, it's the other way around. It's only when we are merging keys, obviously, when we set merge keys as true, and we are in a section that we are merging with. So that is, if the section name found in the file matches one that we wrote to. So in here, we need to find the key to see whether we need to replace it. Got the key, and then this is where we do the writing. And we should be protected here by this, previously written keys. If previously written keys.count is equal to 0, then we haven't written to this key before. And that's set up here when we go to run out. So that is when we go to dump the stuff for this section. Let me look at that when we go to dump out the data from the current section. There's some piece of data that I'm forgetting about, or maybe I have a typo somewhere. So previously written keys done in place. At this point we are working on keyboard, mouse, action mapping, text. So that first line is this one. It contains the new line character here because that's preceding the comment. That is just white space. And then we got the semicolon for the comment, and then a new line for the action mapping. So this text that we are dealing with is this entire section that I just highlighted. It's got the top key and its associated comment. So the comment should follow this key wherever it goes. And I do mean this key, not just like named keys, but this is actually associated with this is actually just associated with a pair in the data map. So it's you're able to have instances of it. And it's here that we do the emplacement. So just to check my assumptions, I'm going to unhash these hashes, the key and the section. So we'll do hn to string, and then I need to copy that key out. Okay, so the key is action mapping, that's correct. And the section is input.test context, that's correct as well. So now that that's there, let me step over and read the contents of the structure. So previously written keys now has an element. The key appears to be, yeah, so is coming back to the file, that is correct. There's no null key here because we never write to the global section. That is, when we go to write out, we don't have keys placed up here. So that's actually correct. Now the next time we get to that breakpoint, continue, we should not be inserting anything. We still only have one element in there because it's that's how a set is. It's supposed to be just 1 to 1. So it doesn't seem to be filling up with bad data. It's still got the correct associations. So at this point we've gone through a couple of lines. We now have both the action mapping and the axis mapping keys in there. Which means that by the time we get to the writing down here, we shouldn't have any problems at all. So there must be something wrong with this logic, because by the time we get to that point, Here we go. By the time we get here, we've already got both the keys wrong, or keys right. So we got section ID and then both of the keys that we don't want to write from. And we've already dumped all the data that should be in the file. So key 607.658.523. Yeah, this is the action mapping key. That's what we wanted. If we look at current section, it says 214.402.69. That's the input.test context, the same values down here. So we should be skipping over that, and so we are. So we're skipping over interesting. So at this point, we've only written out the stuff that should be in the file. And because we have already written over these keys, we should continue out the loop not writing anything. So when do things go wrong? At least for the next few lines, it seems like everything is working. Let me put a breakpoint in that code. Let me find it again real quick. Okay, I think there might be a problem here. This hash does not match. Oh, actually, I know what this hash is. This hash should be the for the action or access mapping. Yeah, it's access mapping. That's fine. So let me put a breakpoint here and just hit continue. It never gets called. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm in the wrong testing scenario, aren't I? No, I'm not. What? I'm telling it to merge everything, and it merged correctly. True, true. This is the original, this is the file that came out. And that's, but I didn't change anything. Oh, what, now it's gonna just start working out of the blue? But I didn't change anything. So this is, for the record, this is what I expected. This is what I wanted. I have an identically named section in the ini file already. I've got keys that I'm overwriting, and so even with the merge options on, I should be replacing these. And that appears to be what happened. So it's only writing it back in these guys because they're the only ones that I threw in the game code. So what gives? Did I make a change and forget about it and then take a break and then... But I didn't change anything. How is it working now? How on earth is this a Heisenbug? It's not like multi-threaded or anything. I didn't make any changes. I'm sure I didn't make any changes. All right, let's review the... Maybe there was something wrong with how I was testing it and I just didn't pick up on it. Like maybe I needed to like reload the file or something. Okay, so heading back to the test scenario. Let's review. Setting these to false, so we're not merging anything. I'm going to give a block of these a slightly different key, and I'll give this a different header name. And then when I go to run it, I should see all of that replaced by input test context without the 2, and even the other unmatching keys should be gone. So that's perfect. That's what I wanted. Now, let's turn on merging sections. And if we're merging the sections, I should see a second context pop up in here. And I do. There's the input context 2, which I left in the file, and this is the section I wrote from the game code because it's called test context. It doesn't replace the other. Now, if I was to run the same code with merge sections enabled, with the same name for the section, I would expect that to replace it here. And it did. It only kept the ones that I wrote from code, no matter what the keys were. So access mapping 2 got erased as well because I said I'm only merging the sections. I'm not merging the keys within the sections. Or merging old sections, I should say, and not merging the contents of each section. So that is working fine. Let me go back to renaming the context section title. And back in the test, we will turn on merging, turn off section merges, turn on merges within each section, and make sure that my test scenario is ready to go. So this is currently named after a separate section, so these 2 sections should go alongside each other. Should they go alongside each other? Oh no, I turned merge sections off, so it should be a total replacement, so that's correct. Now if I make it the same name, everything in this file should be deleted except for access mapping 2, because it's not a key that I'm overwriting from the code. And then all the rest of them should be replaced with the keys that I wrote from the code. I think I got that in my head correct. And that's exactly what happened. This is the stuff I wrote from the code. This is the stuff, the access mapping 2 that was in the file to begin with. So that merged correctly. It just resorted with them below, because that's a quirk of how the merge operation works now. Okay, and then the last scenario where we are merging sections and merging the contents of those sections. So if I make this a separate section again by putting a 2 at the end of its name, I should see these 2 sections save alongside each other. And so I do. There's the one I wrote from code. This is the one that came from the file from before. And if I was to give it the same name again, I should see test mapping to exist alongside the other keys again. And so I do. Okay, so it's cool. It's all working perfectly. So now when I go to write, I can specify what merge behavior I want. The default being off, I believe. Or what did I make the default? Well, I can change the default when I want, but you can optionally leave it out, or you can specify whether you want to replace or merge specific things. And so if I was to like use an INI to get like a single data point, then I don't have to worry about erasing everything else in the file when I update that data point. I can just write that data point out, it'll automatically merge it, which is pretty great. And at this point, I mean, I've been doing a lot of tests. At this point, I shouldn't have any, I still shouldn't have anything in my temp data folder. I do though. What time is it now? 6:22. None of the tests I just ran did. The most recent of these data files was from 5:18. So more than an hour ago, I guess I had aborted some writes. I've redirected my temporary data folder to an easy to access location, and also my user data folder to an easy to access location for this purpose, so that when I'm working with read-write operations, I can like inspect a lot easier. I can just clear these out instead of having to navigate to my temp folder on my computer and find the one that begins with AP, and yeah. Cool. So I guess that's it. I might as well just end the stream. There's only one slight wrinkle, and it's a very slight one, but it's one that probably won't be too much of a pain to fix. And that is when we go to insert a context below an existing one. So I gave the context a different name again. We have it immediately follows the last thing written in the file, whereas I would have expected that we would have finished parsing out here, and then we would be appending to that. Oh, I know what it is. I know what the problem is, and it's easy enough to fix. Let me go ahead and do that. What's happening is that by the time I get to the end of the file, I've filled up the comment buffer with new lines. But because I never encountered another section header or another key value pair, that's just left sitting in the buffer, and it's not actually being used as a spacer between the old stuff and the new stuff. So basically, just before I dump out the new stuff, which this is, that's what this is. It's any sections that were not already in the old file get written out after the sections that were already in the old file here. Just before I make that call, I just do merge file out, and dump out the data of the comment buffer. That's it. Comment buffer by design already has all the new line characters in it. So if I run it now and take a look at what happens to the file, perfect. It doesn't do a crazy thing like putting this right up against it all the time. A person can simply just put a new line after their last line if they're expecting another section. Or or I suppose they could put a new line ahead of their section header when they're writing out. But the point is that the engine will listen to whatever the dev wants and do it. Cool. I'm really excited about that. Now I've got the ability to do a whole bunch of robust settings in the engine. And I'm probably going to spend some time now, well, not now, but tomorrow maybe, going through places in my code where I have a little to-do that says set this from an INI file and actually do it that way. So that way I can do a quick little test. And I can also start committing to the repository. I can start committing the INI files as part of my source control, because the way that I have the read operation where it does the fallback INIs, I can just have it automatically reload INIs that I screw up. Just like it would in a shipping game, you can just delete the preference file and it'll copy the known good copy over automatically. Yeah, I'm really friggin' pleased with myself. It took forever to get here, but I think this is it. One last thing I want to look at, actually, and there's always one more thing, but this is kind of an eyesore to me. I know that these will be strings, so I kind of want them to be quoted when they're printed, and I automatically do that for string values when you're printing directly, like when you're using the API to. In fact, let me just do it real quick and demonstrate. When you go to write out a regular value, so writer dot. Let me give myself some space. Got like 5 new lines. If I do writer dot value, just a regular value, not a dictionary, which is a list of values, and then I do test key, and then the value is a string. I go example string. No spaces in it or whatever. That should automatically come out single quoted. So, and there it is, five spaces, and test key example string comes out like that. And the same thing is true for chars and whatever. And even if you don't put a space in there, it'll do that. That's actually something I hard coded. The OStream operator for strings normally will leave it without quotes if you are not having a space in there. So like if you look at std cout, I believe it normally does. I might be wrong about that. It's been a while since I've actually thought too hard about this. But what I want to do now is I want to have, whenever I'm using a dictionary value, I want these subkey to print in quotes, and then the value to print in quotes. Right now they're just printing out as this, and that's totally fine. That's legal in INIs, but it's kind of like, I think it pops out a little bit more if you put it in quotes, and so I'll do that. So when you go to write to a dictionary, we check the keys alphanumeric. We then, out to the string stream, we'll write the name of the key. So it would just be done right here. Or done over here. Yeah. So that's the name of the key. We have the equals, and then we start the dictionary value. We go through every key in the dictionary, which is provided either as an initializer list or a map or an unordered map. So there's the subkey value. We check whether it's specified more than once, because the dictionary value, you can't actually have duplicate keys. You can't do more than one value per key. Check if it's alphanumeric. And then here's where we actually do the writing. So in this case, whether it has quotes is determined by the OStream operator on the string stream. I'm going to Actually, this isn't as plain as I thought it would be, because now I'm dealing with the string stream operator for getting this out. I'm thinking that, because if I was to take and just like insert the single quotes in here, then what would happen would be if I write a value out that has a space in it, I think it would put it in quotes. Let me check that assumption. So here's a, in the name exit of the first action mapping, I'm going to put a space in on exit. That should be printing out as a string because that's the data type that I've provided this function. This actually has a special type that will automatically convert to an STD variant wrapper. So this should be coming in as a string when it goes to print out. But I want to know whether it comes out in quotes. It doesn't come out in quotes. It comes out with a space. Oh, perfect. Okay, so I can just insert the quotes inside the stream where I do that work before, and it should work perfectly. All right, cool. And it'll lead to less ambiguity here, because if you don't have quotes and you have a space in the value, then yeah, that would have been a problem anyway. So glad I'm looking at this now and not later, because I'd be like, why isn't my string loading correctly? Yeah, dictionary. So for each one of these where I write out the subkey, I will first write out a single quote, and then put a single quote in the equal sign there. What's going on? Oh, it automatically, yeah. There we go. And then put a single quote in the equal sign string there. Wait, is that right? Actually, sorry, that I need to do a little bit more handling here. That would be right if subkey was only a string, but this is actually not handled by an overload. Subkey is actually, if we go to, or subvalue, sorry. And that's another thing that I was doing incorrectly here. Subvalue, here, subvalue, that can be any type. So I actually need to do a check on whether it's a string. So I'll do if subvalue dot value dot index. Subvalue is technically a struct. It contains the value, which is actually the variant that supports all the different types that my INI files can handle. And so I access the STD variants index to tell what kind of file, what kind of value it has. I should do a static assert here to make sure that the type is what I think it is. Do that in a second. If it equals, where's the, I'll need to open up the file ini value t. So I got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 or 14 are strings. Equals 13. Or it equals 14. Then 13 is the STD string, 14 is the C string. Then when we do this, we will be doing single quotes. And actually I can throw character in there too. So or equals 0, because ini value type char is the very first one. I will do this with single quotes. So that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy. So when we write out the, oh, I'm doing it for the subkey again, not the sub value. So we put it here. Cool. Now we are outputting the sub value with single quotes around it for character type for the two string types. And then we do else. And I suppose this is just a one line, so we can do it like this. And then else we will do it the way that we have been doing it for all the arithmetic types and pointer types and so on. Now I just need to static assert these types. So static assert. I need to assert that std is same, which lets me check whether one type is the same as another. So I need to know if sub value or ini value t whether its value type, I might be getting us a little confused. I need to know whether its value type is equal to another. So do I have to do std type, or I forget the correct way to do this. Maybe I haven't done this yet. Type ID. Is that right? One of those things that I'm not very practiced in. Type ID can be used in templates to do the type of a template parameter. Oh, that's yeah, that's not what I was looking for. That's for determining type at runtime. Okay. Right, now I'm remembering. All right. Yeah, so the trick is that I would use variant alternative t. And then for the type, I would do the static accessor. So I would do ini value t : value, I believe, because that'll get the type and not the, yeah. So I would need the index. So I'm checking 0, 13, and 14. So we'll do 0 first. And then it would be ini value t : value. Hopefully that's true. No, I messed something up. See, if I was to just replace this with the type that it is, then that would defeat the purpose, because I'm asserting in the code here that I need to assert that 0 is the index for character type. Oh, and now that I'm saying that, I'm realizing that I forgot a parameter 2. Type 2 needs to be car. How do I get its type statically? There's got to be a way to statically get the type of a struct member, right? I mean, that's obviously known at compile time. Oh, hang on. Oh, I think I may have just forgotten a key step. No, I didn't actually. Hang on. Let me go back to the docs. So in this case, we're asserting is same. V is the helper that just makes it the value without having to get : value. STD variant alternative T. It's the alternative type using 0 and the type itself. Maybe I have to introduce a type diff. That seems like a lot. This is a pretty extensive wrapper class, the gist of which is that this is just a struct containing one value of this variant type. And then there's a bunch of conversion functions and operators and things to make it so that you can just use it anywhere that you would use each of these types. Is it Decal Type? Is that what I'm looking for? Yes. Yes, it is. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's how you do it. Decal Type, I provide the member and it will automatically get. Yeah, and there's even an example in the example section doing exactly what I'm doing. Get Decal Type, get ref. And so I can use that Decal Type on the member variable, even if it's static, I think. So let's frickin' finish this thing. Okay, is same, and then it'll be Decal Type, and then the type is from INI value T, value, I don't know what. Okay, let's take a look. So ini value t is a variant of that, and now I need to do okay, that's actually not the full story, it sounds like. So is that right? So this will get me the type of value, which is that variant. Oh, but now I need to use std. Okay. Variant alternative. Okay. So that's actually the second of std variance alternative t, and then first be 0. Okay. Took me a while just because I'm not classically trained, so I always forget that Decal Type is one that just like slips my mind that it exists all the time. That's one of my known weak areas, is things that start with Decal. Like I haven't ever done extensive programming with DLLs, so linking up libraries or doing Decal spec or things that begin with Decal. I tend to know very little about it, just done nothing with them. Yeah, that should be right, and it looks like the assert's working. So I'm doing a comparison between the variant alternative type 0 of the ini value t, and I'm making sure that it is a car. And it's important to have these assertions here because I'm directly using the indices in my if statement here. So cool. All right, now I got to do type assert that type 13 is std string, and then assert that this is a const car pointer. Cool, and those assertions are passing. Good. 3 years later. So next, cool, and then that code just needs to go in the other 2 overloads for the dictionary, right? Right? Cool. So that's one. That's all, folks. Let's do this one more time. I should be getting nice single quoted strings now for my dictionary subvalues. Sweet. That's perfect. The only ones that are left as double quotes are the ones that were merged from before. So these were from before. If I was to undo and make this the same context again, and when we go to merge, we should find that they're all replaced by what I had in the code, except for these, which have a slightly different key name. Perfect. All right, so that's the end of the stream. This is the last I have to do on INIs. I just got to polish this up and make sure that it builds on Mac and move on to my next big topic. So I don't know the next time I'll stream. Thanks to the folks who joined in periodically, and thanks to anybody who watches this on VOD all the way through, because that's a big ask. Hours and hours of live streaming stuff to watch through a VOD is, quite remarkable. All right, have a great night, everybody.